January looks empty. The beds are frozen, the air is quiet, and nothing green moves above the soil. For most gardeners, this silence feels like permission to ignore the garden completely. They wait for warmth. They wait for signs of life. They wait for spring. That waiting is exactly why so many gardens fail before the season even begins. January is not a dead month. It is the month when soil locks in its future behavior. Long before seeds touch the ground, the soil has already decided whether it will support growth or resist it. This decision happens underground, silently, without warning. Soil is not just dirt, it is a living system. It holds air, water, fungi, bacteria, minerals, and microscopic life that determines how plants feed. In January, these systems slow down, but they do not stop. They reorganize, they stabilize, or collapse. Old gardeners knew this. They treated January as a critical checkpoint, not a time for planting, but a time for protection, correction, and restraint. They understood that soil damage done in winter cannot be repaired in spring. Modern gardening culture erased this knowledge. We were taught that soil work begins when the weather warms. That is convenient and wrong. By spring, the damage is already sealed into the structure. January decides whether your soil will breathe or suffocate, and soil that cannot breathe cannot grow food. Even when frozen on top, soil is active below. Microbial life retreats deeper. Fungal networks tighten and conserve energy. Water moves slowly through pores, freezing and thawing in cycles that reshape the soil's internal architecture. These freeze-thaw cycles are critical. They can gently fracture compacted layers, or they can collapse soil structure entirely if the soil is exposed and unprotected. Bare soil in January is under attack. Rain seals the surface. Snow melts and refreezes, creating hard crusts that block oxygen. Nutrients dissolve and wash downward, beyond the reach of future roots. Beneficial organisms starve without organic cover. At the same time, compaction becomes permanent. Walking on wet winter soil compresses pore spaces that will not reopen. Machinery used just quickly in winter causes damage that lasts the entire season. This is why January soil management is different. You are not trying to stimulate life. You are trying to preserve conditions that allow life to return. If oxygen pathways collapse now, spring roots will struggle. If fungal networks are broken now, nutrient exchange will fail later. If moisture balance is wrong now, disease pressure explodes when warmth returns. Nothing visible is happening, but everything important is. There is one priority in January. Soil must be covered, insulated, and able to breathe. Not fertilized, not tilled, not improved. If your soil surface is bare, it must be covered immediately. Leaves are ideal, especially shredded leaves that interlock and resist wind. Straw works if it is clean and seed-free. Finished compost works if it is laid gently, not compacted. Even a combination of cardboard topped with organic matter can protect soil when nothing else is available. This cover is not about feeding plants directly. In January, roots are mostly inactive. The cover exists to protect structure. It absorbs rainfall impact, prevents surface sealing, and slows freeze-thaw shock. Under mulch, soil temperature fluctuates less, allowing microbes and fungi to survive rather than collapse. The second urgent action is correcting compaction without disturbance. January is the last safe moment for gentle structural repair. Broad forking, vertical loosening, or simply increasing mulch depth restores oxygen channels without destroying fungal networks. Tilling now is one of the worst possible mistakes. Turning soil exposes organisms to lethal cold and dries out aggregates that took years to form. Winter-tilled soil may look loose, but by spring it collapses into dense plates that roots cannot penetrate. Drainage must also be addressed now. Standing water in January is not normal. It signals blocked pores, clay sealing, or slope failure. If water pools now, it will suffocate roots later. Shallow diversion channels, organic matter layering, or even temporary swales can prevent spring disaster, but only if done before saturation. Ignoring these warnings does not make them disappear. It makes them permanent. Spring feels productive. Seeds go in, plants grow fast. It feels like the right time to fix problems. It isn't. By spring, soil biology accelerates violently. Microbes consume oxygen faster. Roots expand aggressively. Water demand spikes. If the soil structure is wrong, stress compounds instantly and invisibly. Compacted soil forces roots to grow sideways instead of downward. Shallow roots dry faster, access fewer nutrients, and overheat in summer. Oxygen-poor soil favors pathogens like Pythium and Fusarium, while suppressing beneficial fungi. Excess moisture leads to rot, damping off, and nutrient lockout. This is why spring problems always appear suddenly. One week plants look fine, the next they stall, yellow, or collapse. Gardeners respond with fertilizer, watering, and sprays, treating symptoms instead of causes. Spring tilling creates a dangerous illusion. It temporarily fluffs the soil, but destroys structure. Within weeks, gravity and moisture collapse it harder than before. Each year, the soil becomes denser, less alive, and more dependent on intervention. This cycle trains gardeners to believe soil is fragile and must be constantly fixed. In reality, soil is resilient, but only if winter damage is prevented. By the time spring arrives, the window for true correction is already closed. There is a simple test old gardeners trusted more than calendars or forecasts. They performed it in January, quietly, without tools. They would kneel, press a hand into the soil beneath the mulch, and feel. Not the temperature, the resistance. Healthy winter soil yields slightly, even when cold. It feels spongy, elastic, alive. Compromised soil feels hard, slick, or brittle, like pressed clay or dried cement. This sensation tells you more than any soil test kit. It reveals whether oxygen still moves, whether water drains, whether roots will be welcomed or rejected. If the soil resists your hand in January, it will resist roots in May. No fertilizer can change that. No compost spread in spring can fix collapsed pore space. Only time and prevention can. This is why experienced gardeners walk their plots in winter, not to work them, but to read them. They observe where snow melts first, where ice lingers longest, where water flows, and where it stagnates. These patterns repeat every year. January reveals the blueprint of the season. Areas that stay frozen longest warm slowly in spring. Areas that shed snow too fast dry early and crack. Places where mulch settles unevenly signal compaction beneath. Each sign is a message, and January is when those messages can still be answered. Do nothing aggressive. Do nothing forceful. Add cover where soil feels exposed. Add insulation where freeze bites deepest. Redirect water gently where it pauses too long. Then step back. A good January gardener leaves almost no visible trace, But by summer, the difference is undeniable. Plants root deeper, stress arrives later, harvests hold longer. The soil remembers how it was treated when nothing was growing, and it repays that memory generously or harshly when everything depends on it. Old gardeners followed one rule that modern manuals never mention. Soil must enter spring protected, porous, and alive. Not rich, not warm, not fertilized. Protected soil preserves microbial memory. Porous soil allows roots to explore without resistance. Living soil feeds plants slowly, steadily, and without shock. In January, the gardener's role is not to act aggressively. It is to prevent harm. Stay off wet beds. Add cover without compaction. Let freeze-thaw cycles work gently instead of destructively. Guard oxygen pathways like veins. This work feels passive, but it is decisive. Gardens that thrive effortlessly in summer are almost always those that were left undisturbed in winter. Industrial gardening ignores this because it cannot be monetized. There is no product for restraint, no profit in patience. But traditional gardens were built on these quiet rules. Garden Lore Vault exists to preserve these truths, the ones that do not shout, but decide everything. The harvest is not lost in summer. It is lost in winter neglect and saved in January silence.